The following are a sequence of 3 lesson plans for Year 8 Chemistry. Lesson 1 is the states of matter. Students should be able to accurately define matter and its 3 states and list examples of states of matter. According to the Australian curriculum, the learners need to understand liquids, solids, and gases. My approach to lesson planning is referenced by Villarreal et al. 2020. That the learners should be allowed opportunities to present their understanding of the topic to enable the instructors to establish whether they have mastered that topic. So the mastery of the subject will be based on the ability of the learners to articulate points without hesitation. So my differentiation strategies are English language learners, learners with special needs, students with gifted abilities, and early finishers. So now I will take a look at the lesson sequence. So according to D. Podesta 2020, poetry effectively integrates literature into the content area. The poetry allows the learners to develop their critical thinking skills as they try to link the poem with the course content. So I will intend to introduce the lesson on solids, liquids, and gases with some poetry. So hooking up the learners would involve storytelling using storytelling to introduce that lesson, but also making a connection to previous lessons. So guiding them regarding matter and previous learning in year 7. Then I will go ahead and talk about the discussion methods and instruction methods. So the learners will be allowed a 10-minute 3-peer group set discussion on the aspects taught in class. The benefit of the discussion method is that it provides avenue for the learners to exchange ideas based on their understanding of the topic, according to Will Birding 2021. Then I will be giving them an anticipatory set where the learners will be provided with the objects and substances listed in the resource list. So there are multiple means of representation, so establishing the shapes assumed by different solids, and multiple means of engagement, so providing manipulative substances, and ask the learners to group them based on the 3 states of matter. So my teaching strategies are personalized learning. So having the learners have diversified learning needs. So even though there is a syllabus, they need to, the instructors need to engage with the learners in more targeted learning. So in terms of monitoring student learning progress, I will use formative and summative assessment. And assessing if the learning intentions have been met is to assess the learner's grades in the course-specific examinations. So summative and formative assessments shall be conducted in terms of midterm and end-term exams, as well as discussion findings in class over the term. So to close this lesson, I shall be giving clarification on some aspects that are not understood, and of course, an extension activity and homework as well. All right, now moving on to the lesson 2 of 3 would be the properties of matter. So we've now talked about states of matter and talked about and introduced the states, but now we're going to look closer into the properties of these matters. So again, referencing the Australian curriculum, we will be moving forward in the second aspect of Year 8 chemistry. So solids have a fixed shape and volume, liquids have a fixed volume but no fixed shape, and gases have neither a fixed shape nor a fixed volume, according to D. Podesta 2020. So according to referenced literature, I have also looked at a journal, Subali et al. 2019, to help with my evidence collection. So I shall be using the question-answer strategy, which will be used to gather information from the clients. So it will involve asking the learners what they have learned and assessing their responses to establish their level of subject mastery. All right, so moving forward, I shall be using similar resources, but also in this case, key differentiation strategies will be students with gifted abilities and early finishes. And so moving forward with the sequence, I shall be introducing the lesson with pictures and artifacts. Since we're talking about properties now, I shall be using Landau, Popper, and Repanovici 2020 journal that pictorials effectively prepare learners for the lesson. So the approach is therefore effective in teaching some of these science concepts. So pictorials will be hooking up the learners in terms of using a quote. So a quotation from someone famous will be used to set a scene for the lesson. So let's look at another journal. So this journal is called Rude and Jacobson 2021, showed that a thought-provoking quote is the most effective tool since it borrows authority while helping the learners see the topic's relevance. Of course, I shall be making a connection to a previous lesson, which is the states of matter, quite recently last week. And then I shall be using the lecture method for the first time since it's more theoretical. And then, so that's the properties for the different states of matter. Again, the anticipatory set to remind the students of what was covered in states of matter. Of course, there's multiple means of representation, engagement. And in this particular one, I've also incorporated the teaching strategies called a reinforcement effort. So according to the journal Oxford and Armour-Stauffer 2019, showed that the support encourages the learners to realize their learning goals. So I shall be using recognition and praise, which according to Wilder-Birding 2021 will motivate the students not only to learn, but also to participate in classroom activities. So I shall be using formative and summative assessment like in lesson 1. So it's similar to the assessment in lesson 1 as well. And also asking questions will be the difference between the previous lesson where I elaborated on states of matter. I shall be now questioning the students on the aspects of the properties of matter. Okay, so that's lesson 2. Now moving on to the final lesson, lesson 3 of 3, molecular motion. So how do molecules move? Now that we've learned of the states and properties of matter, we will follow the Australian curriculum once again. So we will talk about heating and cooling. So how do the states of matter respond to an increase in temperature, and how do the states of matter respond to a cooling or a decrease of temperature? So I have used Rude and Jacobson, Subali et al. 2019 for my evidence collection of assessment. So at the end of each lesson, it encompasses the written test, for example. In this particular lesson, positive performance in the test would imply that the learners have mastered the concepts. So English language learners should be able to would be the key differentiation strategy. So some would speak English better than others, and that's how we can use to explain the concepts in a simple way to those who aren't native English speakers. So let's talk about how I would what are the strategies that I've used in this final lesson. So I have used pictorials again, like in the previous lesson, Landau, Popper, and Repanovici. Pictorials are one of the best ways to deliver this lesson. So in this case, I have used an intriguing question. So that's what differentiates lesson 2 with lesson 3, where I have used a good question based on Jacobson 2021 to give the learners an insight on what they should expect in this increase or decrease in temperature. And I will use questioning like in the previous lesson as well, except in the middle of the lesson. And then I shall be using the lecture method in terms of instruction because there's a lot of theoretical material here, sorry. So Pereira et al. 2020 is a journal that I've used to deliver this lecture. I intend to use a wide coverage considering that all learners were taught the same content at a time. And so yes, so the second approach would be effective since it saves time according to Landau, Popper, and Repanovici 2020. Since it is likely to reach a large number of learners, unlike other strategies where teachers attend to only one or a few students. The lecture method can have some flaws if it's not accurately applied. So That's in this case, I'll also use videos, since explaining the concept of molecular motion is great with videos. So according to Rude and Jacobson 2021, videos foster attraction while ensuring learners master and remember the concepts taught. So for this lesson, videos will be designed to show the states of matter and their properties, but also illustrating the differences between them and explaining how molecules move. So again, I shall be using the anticipatory set and multiple means of representation, and as applied in the previous 2 lessons, but also learning from experience. So I shall be bringing the students to outdoor activities, with them allowed to heat and cool substances in an outdoor setting or in the lab as well. So Wilberding 2021, learning by experience, does not only help the students to understand, but also remember the aspects taught. So the assessments are similar, formative and summative, and also assessing if the learning intentions have been met are also similar. So in this lesson 3 of 3, obviously it's closing 3 lessons, I have used the concept called recap in the summary. So I will summarize all 3 lessons, but at the end of only lesson 3 to recap the most crucial elements. So what are the main concepts and what students should take away from these 3 lessons as a whole. And that's about it for these 3 introductory lessons. And here are the references for these 3 lessons. The major one is, of course, the Australian curriculum, but also I have listed all these references: De Podesta 2020, Landoy, Oxford, Pereira, Rude, Subali, and that's it. And Villarroel and Wilberding. So most of these references were in the 2020s, so they're quite recent references. And of course, my appendices will have the resources, the science textbook, and of course the pictorials, lessons, and all the materials that I have used in these 3 lessons. So that's about it. Thank you.